Hello. In this week's Torah portion, Noach, we read about the injunction not to eat blood. Quote, "But flesh with its life, which is its blood, you shall not eat." Unquote. This prohibition is actually repeated 6 more times in the Torah. In Leviticus, we read, "It shall be an everlasting statute for your generations throughout all your dwellings, that you eat neither fat nor blood." Later, "And you shall not eat any blood in any of your dwellings, whether from bird or beast. Whoever eats blood, his soul shall be cut off from his people." Later still in Leviticus, "And if anybody of the house of Israel, or of the strangers who sojourn among you, eats any kind of blood, I will set my face against that soul, and will cut him off from among his people. Ki nefesh habasar badam, for the life of the flesh is in the blood. Therefore I say to the people of Israel, no soul of you shall eat blood, nor shall any stranger who sojourns among you eat blood. And if anybody of the people of Israel, or of the strangers who sojourn among you, hunts and catches a beast or bird that may be eaten, he shall pour out its blood and cover it with dust. For it is the life of all flesh, the blood of it is for its life. Therefore I say to the people of Israel, you shall not eat the blood of any kind of flesh, for the life of all flesh is its blood, whoever eats it shall be cut off." Later still in Leviticus, "You shall not eat anything with the blood." Unquote. And in Deuteronomy, it is repeated twice more. "Only you shall not eat the blood, you shall pour it upon the earth like water. Only be strong, and do not eat the blood, for the blood is the life, and you may not eat the life with the flesh. You shall not eat of it. You shall pour it upon the earth as water. You shall not eat it, that it may go well with you and with your children after you, when you shall do that which is right in the sight of the Lord." Unquote. This raises a number of questions. Why is this so important that it is repeated so many times? Why can we eat animals but not their blood? Why not just prohibit eating meat altogether? It says no blood, but it is practically impossible to remove every molecule of blood. Also, of all the possible false charges against the Jews, how did the blood libel arise? That's the charge that Jews kill Christian babies and use their blood to bake matzah for Pesach. Thousands of Jews over the centuries have been murdered because of this lie. Yet the Torah is clear that blood consumption is forbidden, and matzah is just unleavened bread. Why not accuse us of killing Christian children to eat their noses? Is it because anti-Semites love to accuse us of not following our own religious rules? We'll examine these questions shortly, but first, let's talk about how Jews apply this prohibition in practice. Maimonides writes that 2 of the 613 commandments are do not eat blood, negative commandment 184, and cover the blood of a slaughtered animal or bird, positive commandment 147. How much blood counts as eating? The Talmud replies about the volume of an olive. The punishment for eating blood is shunning, karet in Hebrew. Maimonides writes, one who intentionally eats an olive's worth of blood is cut off from his people. One who eats it accidentally brings a sin offering. How is the blood removed? First, the animal must be slaughtered properly, according to the laws of Shechita. Then, one must pour out the blood and remove large arteries and veins, as well as bruised meat and coagulated blood. Within 3 days, the meat must be soaked for 30 minutes. If it's done after 3 days, it is too late. The blood is too embedded in the meat. Then, one must cover it with salt to drain the remaining blood. Whatever red liquid remains inside the meat is not considered blood according to Jewish law. Eggs may not be eaten if they contain visible blood. The liver contains too much blood for the above procedure, and so must be broiled. Human blood is not prohibited biblically, but it is prohibited rabbinically, because it looks like animal blood. That argument is called mar'it ayin. If you bleed inside your mouth, there is no problem if you swallow the blood. But if you cut yourself and bleed into food, you must remove the part where the blood landed if you can see it. The Talmud adds that drinking blood is also forbidden, not just eating it. The blood of fish and locusts may be eaten. They are neither beast nor bird. Note that the Torah says not to eat blood in any of your dwellings. This means that one cannot say, I won't eat blood at home, but only outside the home. It turns out, however, that one is allowed to benefit from blood. The Mishnah tells us that sacrificial blood was collected and sold to gardeners as fertilizer. The interesting thing about this prohibition is its originality. It is not found elsewhere in the ancient Near East. In fact, people did eat blood and liked it back then, which is why the Torah says, quote, only be strong and do not eat the blood, unquote, meaning that you have to make an effort to avoid being tempted by it. Blood is not appetizing to Jews today, so the commandment did its work in time, as did the commandment against idolatry. The prohibition is given early in Genesis, which means it applies to all people, not only Jews. But flesh with its life, which is its blood, you shall not eat. Now, let us try to answer the question, why is eating blood prohibited? The first and simplest answer is the pshat, the plain statement of the Bible, because blood is life, literally soul, nefesh. So eating blood is tantamount to eating life, and so we must not do it. It is reasonable to think so. If a healthy person suffers a skin cut, he will slowly bleed to death, so his blood must be his life. In fact, it is the only dietary law in the Torah for which a reason is given. But by spilling and covering the blood as the Torah requires, do we save or even respect life? Isn't it somewhat irreverent? Why not preserve it, or bury it in a dignified ceremonial manner as we do with the dead? Second, Maimonides, the Rambam, who was also a physician, invokes health reasons, saying that blood is bad food and difficult to digest. Quote, blood is indigestible and injurious as food, unquote. I'm not sure this is true. Certainly, today we know the composition of blood and know that it is very nutritive, although one cannot survive on it alone. It is regularly eaten by many people in the world today, in the form of blood sausage, blood soup, etc. Third, Nachmanides, the Ramban, invokes psychological reasons. Eating blood makes us like animals. He writes, if we were to eat blood, the life of all flesh, it would then attach itself to our own blood, and they would become united in our hearts. The result would be a thickening and coarseness of the human soul, so that it could closely approach the nature of the animal soul which resided in what we ate. He also argues that you can acquire bad animal traits from eating the blood. Eating blood makes us acquire wicked traits, he writes. When a man consumes from an animal physically similar to him, the very thing on which his life depends and to which his soul is connected, that is blood, he acquires his traits. Actually, there is some scientific evidence of that. In the 1950s, experiments suggested that worms acquire the ability to navigate a maze after eating the remains of other worms that had been trained to run through that maze. Also, some transplant recipients claim to have acquired taste and personality traits from their donors. But all this is still tentative and controversial. Rashi, quoting a Talmudic sage, notes that this is the easiest commandment to observe, and if the Torah says we must strengthen ourselves to observe it, how much more so must we strengthen ourselves to observe all other commandments? The fifth argument is a standard one to justify many prohibitions. Idolaters used to do it. Maimonides writes, quote, the idolaters killed the beast, collected its blood in a vessel, and ate of the flesh while sitting around the blood. They imagined that the spirits would come to eat the blood, which was their food. Then the spirits would appear to them in dreams, inform them of coming events, and be favorable to them. Such ideas people liked and accepted in those days, and their correctness was not doubted. In the Torah, which is perfect in the eyes of those who know it and seeks to cure mankind of its last diseases, it forbade the eating of blood and emphasized the prohibition exactly in the same terms as it emphasizes idolatry. Indeed, the Torah says, I will set my face against that soul who eats blood, and that same language is employed in reference to idolatry. The Torah says, then I will set my face against that man and against his family, and will cut him off, and all who play the harlot after him, to commit whoredom with the idol Molech. There is, besides idolatry and eating blood, no other sin in reference to which these words are used. For the eating of blood leads to a kind of idolatry, to the worship of spirits. Unquote. The sixth and last argument is that allowing the eating of flesh but not blood is a concession to man. God had to compromise to make it easier to accept Torah at the time. People clearly wanted meat. The Torah says, "And the people of Israel also wept again and said, 'Who shall give us meat to eat?' And Moses said to the Lord, 'From where should I have meat to give to all this people? For they weep to me, saying, Give us meat that we may eat.'" Unquote. Even the sages had a saying, "En simcha illa bebasar veyayin." There is no rejoicing except with meat and wine. Making meat kosher is hard. Is that a hint to become vegetarian? Note that mankind was vegetarian at first. The Torah says, quote, "And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb yielding seeds which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree that has seed yielding fruit, to you it shall be for food." Unquote. Then, after the floods, people were allowed to eat meat. Some commentators said that this was necessary because all plant life had been destroyed in the floods. But it raises the question, is vegetarianism the ideal? Note in this regard that many such compromises were later withdrawn by the rabbis, effectively, although not literally, or strongly discouraged for various reasons. There is no more polygamy, slavery, animal sacrifices, death penalty, mandatory levirate marriage, sota, Nazirite vows, astrology, mandatory repaying of debts on the seventh year, killing Amalekites, etc. Will prohibiting meat be next? The Talmud hints that permission to eat meat was only a temporary concession. Quote, "The Torah teaches a lesson in moral conduct, that man shall not eat meat unless he has a special craving for it, and shall eat it only occasionally and sparingly." Unquote. Modern rabbis echo these sentiments. One said, "The latent aspiration of justice for the animal kingdom will come out into the open when the time is ripe." And another, "Eating meat was a concession conditional on the prohibition of eating blood, an allusion to the fact that in reality all meat should have been prohibited. This partial prohibition was designed to call to mind the previously total one." Unquote. Indeed, many believe that when the Messiah comes, people will again be vegetarians. Some commentators claim that vegetarians live longer. The Torah notes that in the vegetarian period, from Adam to Noah, Adam lived 930 years, his son Seth 912 years, his son Enosh 905 years, his descendant Enoch 910 years, until Methuselah 969 years, the longest in the Torah. Maimonides writes, quote, "They lived so long because of their food or mode of living." Unquote. After the floods, people died younger. Abraham lived only 175 years. Is this also a scientific observation? Yes, but not quite as dramatic. A 2013 study shows a 12.5% reduction in mortality rate among vegetarians. Think about it. Shabbat Shalom.